faces too. If anybody doesn't know me or haven't heard of me or whatnot, I started in real estate almost 16 years ago. So it's been a while. And when I first got started, I started with no money. You know, literally, my wife and I lived in an apartment. I'm going to bore some of y'all with this story, so I apologize. But my wife and I were living in an apartment, had no money, had no, entrepreneurial background, was working at basically a dead-end job that I hated. My wife was a hairstylist. We were broke, living in this apartment. And, long story short, read a couple of books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad being one, book by Tony Robbins being another, very inspiring to me. Went to a couple of meetup groups, and I got a map. Okay. And what that map was someone showed me a way that I could buy rental properties, okay, with essentially no money down. Okay. And so, a lot of times when I get, I meet with investors and talk to people all the time. I hear people talk about, well, I want to invest and I don't have any money to invest. And I'm like, really, that's the reason I got into real estate, was because I was told I didn't need any money to do it. Now, it required me working a little bit harder, right? And having to get very creative and learn how to negotiate and do a bunch of things that honestly I wasn't good at and had no experience at. And, took me out of my comfort zone. But long story short, went into that first year and was able to buy 10 rental properties. And I used a credit card. So I did put a little bit of money down. Not a lot. And then I learned how to get creative with putting deals together and negotiating stuff like that. So I was able to buy 10 rental properties. I still have some of those properties today. And year two, I went out and bought 10 more rental properties, mainly through partnerships. So I started putting together partnerships. I didn't know anything about private money or any other types of financing I could get at the time other than hard money. And year three, this is going to 2009, I had cut my teeth a little bit in real estate, done 20 or so deals, and there were these flipping shows that I see some young faces in the crowd also. Well, these flipping shows were a new thing back then. All right, it was on HGTV kind of stuff, and Armando Montalongo busts onto the scene. Some of you guys know. Anybody watch Armando back in the day? Okay, I know I can't be the only one. So this is like the birth, really, of these house flipping shows. And there were some other ones, Than Merrill, right, from Fortune Builders, and other ones. So every single weekend, man, like I was sitting down there on the couch with my bowl of ice cream or my popcorn, and I was watching these shows. And, one of my mentors told me, like, not to flip. Yeah, he said, you buy and hold real estate. And the problem was, when I had about 25 tenants, it was a bit of a headache. And I said, well, I'd rather be doing something that I actually enjoy. I never got into real estate to get, massively wealthy or anything. I just wanted to do something I enjoyed first and foremost, because I hated my job. And number two, I did want to provide for my family and be able to take some vacations, and then, create some financial freedom. And I was feeling on track to do that. But I'm watching this Armando guy flip these houses. I'm like, man, that looks really cool. And so I started kind of like, I think I could do that. And so I told my wife, I'm going to go flip me some houses. And so what I did was I went out, I found a property that I wanted to flip, and guess how it went? Very, very bad. Okay. Very, very bad. And I didn't lose a ton of money. Okay. It was less than $10,000. But at that time, that was a huge amount to me, right? I've only been in the business about 2.5 years. I started from nothing, used $7,000 on my credit card to get into this business. Losing $10,000 was a big deal to me, not only financially, but it was more of like a psychologically thing, an emotional thing. It was like a gut punch. And so I kind of stayed in my comfort zone at that point in time. I had a kind of a good thing going with the rentals. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this. Tenants were starting to bug a little bit now because I'm increasing it. And I had some vacancies and some make-readies and some headaches, basically. And I was getting on the verge of hiring my first assistant. But I'm like, honestly, like I still wanted to flip. Like I couldn't deny it. And I'm, watching this Armando, and I'm like, you're such a liar, Armando. You can't. These fake numbers on TV. And so I really took a hard look in the mirror, and I'm like, I really want to flip houses. And that really looks more fun, more exciting to me. And I wanted some big paydays, like, just to be honest, like I did. And so I was networking, and that's always been one of my fundamentals of growing my business is networking. Went to a networking event, a wholesaler I've been working with, was at the event. He's like, man, I've got a deal. And I'm like, well, tell me about it. And at that point in time, this is late 2009. Okay, at that point in time, this particular home, the ARV, the after repaired value of the home was going to be close to $400,000, $385,000 to be exact. That was a really big number for me. Okay, I was mainly buying, hood houses for like $30,000 or $40,000 back then, maybe to $150,000 tops. My comfort zone was like $75,000 to $100,000. I was like taking them down. Now we're talking about $400,000, and I'm looking at my last house that flopped, and that was only like a $150,000 house. I'm like, what am I doing here? And my wife and I had moved out of our apartment, but our home at that time was less than $200,000. I'm like, should I be flipping this house? And that was not a good real estate market, right? 2009 it was not. And so he gave me the numbers, and it was in a neighborhood called Greatwood, if anyone's familiar with Greatwood in Sugar Land. In every real estate market, every cycle, there's always exceptions to the rule, right? There's the macro market, and then there's micro markets. Greatwood has always been a great market. And this was kind of my wife and I's dream neighborhood too at that point in time. Like, man, if we could just live in Greatwood, have it made. So he gave me these numbers, and the deal was buying it for, I should remember this, but I don't. It was in the mid to high twos. The house was beautiful. It was amazing. Didn't need much at all, okay, except the kitchen. Okay, it needed painting and carpet and very, very, very basic stuff. But the kitchen was completely gutted because the previous family living there, husband and wife, were separating and divorcing. He had just remodeled the kitchen for her not too long ago, and he felt, you know what, for divorcing, I'm gutting the kitchen and demolishing it. And he did. So we had a full kitchen remodel, okay, and then just paint and carpet kind of stuff, pretty simple stuff. And all in all, it was like a $30,000, $40,000 rehab, nothing too major. So what I did when I went and looked at that deal late at night, it's like 10 o'clock at night when I looked at this thing. Stayed up, at night thinking about it, woke up the next morning thinking about it. And I'm looking at the numbers, it was like 250, 260, whatever it is. I'm going to spend 30 or 40,000 in it, but it's worth, and I felt really good. Like 385, I feel great about this. And I had an agent I was working with from day one when I started real estate. She knew Greatwood like the back of her hand. She's like, called her the next morning. She's like, yeah, like this is a great section. That's a great price. I know that street. It's going to sell. I promise you it's going to sell. Did I fully trust her? I don't know, and I'm like, I trusted her, but I'm like, does she really know? She doesn't know. And what I did was I took some time and I was like, man, what happened on the last deal and on my last flip deal? And I really went back and looked at it, and I really did everything wrong. And that's where these fundamentals came from. Okay. And so, starting with mindset, we'll get into generating leads, evaluating deals, estimating repairs, financing, rehabbing, and then generating income. That's where it's all birthed from. So I went back to the drawing board and looked at everything I did wrong. And I made mistakes in every single one of these fundamentals. Okay. A big one was like estimating repairs. I didn't go in with a clear scope of work. Okay. I went in, and even when we started the rehab, I was indecisive about things. I wasn't sure what we were going to do here and there. I was going in after work at night and on the weekends, with a hammer and a drill, and I'm doing work and I'm knocking out walls because I'm, wanting to have some fun, and I'm bugging the contractors and doing my handyman work is not good. Okay, it's just not good. And I delayed the project. I caused cost overruns, priced the house too high, all this stuff on that first flip. And I said, what if I learned from this? So what I did was I made a decision, and I raised private money on it versus nothing against hard money lenders, but I got my money a lot cheaper, and I got super clear on what we're going to do here. I've created a crystal clear scope of work. Okay. Called my contractors before we even closed on the property and scheduled a walkthrough the day of closing. Okay. I said, hey, I'm closing at this house at 10 a.m. If you want to work on this job, I need you here at noon. I need you to show up on time. Don't be late. We're getting to work today. And so they all met me over here. And I said, here's the deal, guys. Here's the scope of work. I know exactly what we're doing. Every square inch of this house. I need it done, and I need it done quick. I need it done in 30 days or less. If you want, you're the electrician, you're the plumber, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Here's my game plan. I need you here even on the weekends. If you don't want to take on this role, it's okay. I'm going to find someone else, and it's okay. You can work with me in the future. But in this job, I only need people who are like committed to get this thing done quick. And they did. They showed up, did their thing. We finished that rehab in 30 days. Put the house on the market. It was a Friday. I remember like it was yesterday. Put that house on the market the same day. Listed it with multiple offers that same day. Accepted a full price offer at $385. Closed it 30 days later. So I made $60,000 in 60 days, which was more than I made at my full-time job working an entire year. And that's when I was hooked. Then I was hooked. I was an addict. I'm like, man, I love this game. It's not great for your taxes. If you're making a lot of money, pay a lot of taxes. Okay, there's ways to shelter it, and I do a lot of other long-term buy and holds and stuff like that. But I've been flipping houses ever since. Okay, and so that's where this kind of presentation's birthed from. So I'm going to dig into some of these fundamentals, and if you guys have questions, fire away. You got to use the Quest Cube, whatever they call it there.